When she left me, I didn't know if I would ever be okay again. Not in a dramatic way, in a quiet, terrifying way. I remember the exact moment it became real. Not when she said the words, but when the room felt different after. Like the air had weight. Like something invisible had packed its bags and walked out before I could stop it. When she left me, the world didn't fall apart. I did. I kept waking up expecting a text that wasn't coming. Kept checking my phone like muscle memory would somehow rewrite reality. I'd replay old conversations over and over, looking for the moment I should have done something different. Said something softer, listened longer, cared louder. The worst part wasn't losing her. It was realizing I helped push her away. I didn't cheat, I didn't lie, but I wasn't present. I was there without being there, and that might hurt more. I thought love was just staying. I didn't realize it was showing up, even when it was uncomfortable, even when it required change. After she left, everything became quiet, too quiet. The silence followed me everywhere. In the car, in the gym, in bed at night when my thoughts got louder than my breathing. I'd stare at the ceiling wondering how someone could mean everything to you one day and be gone the next. I missed her in ways I couldn't explain. I missed the version of myself I was when she loved me. I started questioning everything, my worth, my efforts, whether I was ever enough or just convenient. And the scariest thought kept creeping in. What if this was my one chance? And I blew it. There were nights I felt completely hollow, like I was moving through life on autopilot, smiling when I was supposed to, laughing when it was expected, but breaking down the second I was alone. Heartbreak doesn't scream, it whispers, and it whispers all the worst things about you. It told me I waited too long, that I took her for granted, that I loved too passively, and the truth is, some of that was right. I didn't lose her because I didn't care. I lost her because I didn't show it the way she needed. That realization hurts more than the breakup itself. But here's the part nobody talks about. There came a moment when I realized missing her wasn't killing me. Avoiding growth was. Pain either repeats you or rebuilds you. And I got tired of repeating myself. I stopped asking, why did she leave? And started asking, who was I when she did? I learned that love isn't just intensity. It's consistency. It's presence. It's accountability without being asked. I learned that saying I love you means nothing if your actions never back it up. And slowly, quietly, I started changing. Not for her, not to win her back, but because I never want to be the reason someone feels alone while standing right next to me again. I still miss her, but I don't hate myself anymore for losing her, because now I understand something I didn't before. She wasn't just someone I loved. She was a lesson I needed. She didn't leave to destroy me. She left to wake me up, and today, I'm not healed. I'm not over it. But I'm better. I communicate now. I listen without waiting to respond. I show love in ways that don't require reminders. I'm becoming the man I should have been back then. And maybe she'll never see that version of me, but someone will. And when that happens, this heartbreak won't have been pointless, because losing her taught me how to love deeper, stand firmer, and never again let comfort replace effort. She was the chapter that hurt the most, but she's also the reason the story gets better from here. And if you're wondering how I'm doing now, I'm still standing, still growing, and finally moving forward. What if I'm the problem? Not them, not the timing, not the distance, not the circumstances I keep blaming. What if every relationship that ended, every goodbye I didn't see coming, every moment I felt abandoned, has one thing in common? Me. That thought didn't come gently. It didn't feel insightful or mature. It felt like my chest collapsing inward at 2:37 in the morning, staring at a ceiling I've memorized because sleep keeps avoiding me. Because during the day it's easier. During the day I can convince myself I tried my best, that I loved hard, that I cared deeply, that I was the one who got hurt. But night doesn't let you lie. At night, memories stop being selective. They show up uninvited, not the highlight reel, but the moments I edited out, the tone in my voice, the way I shut down instead of speaking up, the way I needed reassurance but asked for it in ways that pushed people away. I replay conversations I wish I could take back, not because of what they said, but because of how I responded. I see it now. I loved like someone who was afraid of being left. Every "are we okay?" wasn't really a question. It was a plea. Every time I pulled away, it wasn't confidence, and it was fear wearing armor. I didn't say, "I'm scared you'll leave." I said, "You're acting different." I didn't say, "I feel insecure." I said, "I don't care anymore," hoping they'd prove me wrong. And the worst part, I thought I was protecting myself. I told myself I was just being cautious, that I was guarding my heart, that I was strong for not needing anyone too much. But strength doesn't look like shutting people out, and protection doesn't look like sabotaging something before it can hurt you. I think back to how quickly my mood could change, how one unanswered text could spiral into assumptions, how silence felt like rejection instead of just silence. I didn't realize it then, but I was asking people to heal wounds they didn't cause. I brought old pain into new love and expected it to behave differently. And when it didn't, I resented them for it. I noticed the pattern now, how I loved intensely at first, how I showed up fully emotionally, almost desperately. And then slowly, fear crept in. Fear of not being enough. Fear of being replaced. Fear of loving harder than I was loved back, so I started testing them. Not out loud, not directly. I tested them with distance, with coldness, with silence. I wanted proof without asking for it. That's not love, that's insecurity disguised as independence. And it hurts to admit because I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I wasn't malicious, I wasn't careless, I was unhealed. I thought love would fix me, that being chosen would finally quiet the voice in my head that says, "You're not enough." That if someone stayed long enough, the fear would eventually disappear. But it doesn't work like that. Love doesn't erase insecurity, it exposes it. And mine was loud. So what if I'm the problem? Not in the way that makes me a villain, but in the way that forces me to look inward instead of outward. Because blaming others kept me comfortable, but questioning myself, that changes everything. And this is where it starts. I wish the realization ended there. I wish awareness was enough to stop the damage. But knowing you're the problem doesn't immediately make you better. It just makes the mirror harder to avoid. Once I asked the question, I couldn't stop seeing the answers. I started noticing how defensive I got when someone brought up how they felt, how quickly I heard criticism instead of concern, how often I turned conversations into debates instead of listening. I wasn't listening to understand, I was listening to survive. Every serious talk felt like a threat. Every boundary felt like rejection. Every request felt like proof that I wasn't enough as I was. So I pushed back. I minimized their feelings. I justified my reactions. I explained myself instead of apologizing. I said things like, "That's not what I meant," when what they were really saying was, "That hurt." And somehow I convinced myself that intent mattered more than impact. It doesn't. I see now how exhausting that must have been. Loving someone who needed reassurance but resisted vulnerability. Someone who wanted closeness but panicked when it actually arrived. Someone who asked for honesty but flinched when it showed up. I wanted to be understood without explaining myself. I wanted patience without offering clarity. I wanted loyalty without giving emotional safety. That's not fair. I think about how often I confused intensity with connection. How I thought feeling deeply meant I was loving deeply. How I mistook anxiety for passion and attachment for commitment. I was loud in my love at the beginning, texts, effort, attention, and then quieter when fear took over. Shorter replies, longer pauses, walls disguised as space. I didn't realize how confusing that was. How unsafe inconsistency feels to someone who's trying to love you. And when they finally pulled away, I played the victim. I told myself they gave up, that they didn't fight hard enough, that they didn't love me the way I loved them. But love isn't measured by how much you feel. It's measured by how you treat people when you're triggered, and that's where I failed. I think about the moments I chose pride over peace, being right over being kind, control over connection. I didn't know how to sit with discomfort, so I reacted. I didn't know how to express fear, so I disguised it as distance. I didn't know how to trust calm love, so I looked for problems to stay alert. And slowly, quietly, the people I cared about started to feel like they were walking on eggshells around me. That realization hurts in a way I can't explain, because I never wanted to be someone who drains the people they love. I never wanted to be the source of confusion. I never wanted to make anyone feel like they had to earn peace with me. But intention doesn't undo damage. And that's the part I had to sit with. The idea that I wasn't a monster, but I wasn't safe either. I carried unresolved wounds into relationships and expected them to adapt. I let past hurt speak louder than present reality. I let fear decide how I showed up, and every time someone left, it reinforced the belief that I wasn't worth staying for, without realizing I was helping create the very ending I feared. That's the trap. Fear of abandonment creates behavior that pushes people away, then uses their absence as proof that the fear was justified. I lived in that loop for a long time, and breaking it meant accepting something uncomfortable. I didn't need to be loved harder. I needed to love healthier. I needed to stop asking people to save me from myself. And that's when the question changed. It stopped being, what if I'm the problem, and became, what am I going to do about it? That question didn't have an easy answer. What am I going to do about it? Because recognizing the pattern was painful, but changing it meant letting go of the version of myself I'd been defending for years. I had to stop romanticizing my pain. I wasn't deep for overthinking. I wasn't passionate for reacting emotionally. I wasn't guarded. I was afraid. And fear had been driving the wheel far longer than I wanted to admit. The first thing I had to accept was this. My feelings were valid, but my reactions weren't always healthy. Being triggered doesn't mean being right. Being hurt doesn't give you permission to hurt back, even quietly, even unintentionally. So I started doing the hardest thing I knew how to do. I paused. Not perfectly, not every time, but intentionally. When I felt that familiar tightening in my chest, the urge to pull away, to go silent, to test, I stopped and asked myself what was actually happening. Was I responding to the present or reliving the past? Most of the time, it was the past. Old wounds speaking through a new situation, old fears projecting onto someone who hadn't done anything wrong. I had to learn how to say things I used to hide. I'm feeling insecure right now. I'm scared of losing you. I don't need space, I need reassurance. Those sentences felt humiliating at first. Vulnerability always does when you've mistaken independence for strength. But something changed when I started being honest instead of strategic. I stopped trying to control outcomes. I stopped manipulating situations to protect my ego. I stopped expecting people to read my mind. And for the first time, I realized something important. Healthy love doesn't need tests. It needs clarity. It needs consistency. It needs self-awareness. I also had to take responsibility for my healing, not as a concept, but as a daily practice. That meant unpacking why silence terrified me, why I associated calm with disinterest, why I equated being chosen with being worthy. It meant admitting that some of my insecurities weren't caused by relationships at all. They existed long before them. Love didn't break me, it revealed me. And instead of blaming the mirror, I started listening to it. I began setting standards, not for others, but for myself. I don't punish people for my triggers anymore. I don't withdraw to feel powerful. I don't turn fear into distance, and when I mess up, and because I still do, I own it. No defensiveness, no justifications, no turning apologies into explanations. Just accountability. Because growth isn't about never hurting people, or it's about noticing when you do and caring enough to change. I don't see myself as the problem anymore. I see myself as someone who was unprepared, and chose to become better instead of bitter. And maybe that's the real resolution. Not pretending the past didn't happen, not erasing the damage, but learning from it deeply enough that it doesn't repeat. So if love comes back into my life, and I believe it will, it won't meet the version of me that was terrified of losing it. It'll meet someone who knows who they are. Someone who doesn't chase reassurance. Someone who doesn't confuse intensity with intimacy. Someone who understands that love isn't about being perfect. It's about being present, honest, accountable, and finally, ready. Jealousy didn't ruin my relationship overnight. It didn't explode. It didn't scream. It whispered, and that's why I listened. At first, it sounded like concern, like love that just cared a little too much, like awareness, like protection, like being invested. I told myself if I didn't feel this way, it would mean I didn't care. That was the first lie I let live rent-free in my head, because jealousy never shows up looking dangerous. It shows up looking reasonable. It shows up as questions you ask yourself late at night. It shows up as thoughts you don't say out loud but replay on loop. It shows up when you notice something small and then can't unnotice it. A laugh that lingered, a name that came up twice, a pause before a reply. Nothing concrete, nothing provable, but enough. Enough for my mind to start filling in the blanks with worst case scenarios. And once your brain decides there's a threat, logic doesn't matter anymore. I didn't accuse you. I didn't yell. I didn't demand answers. I watched. I observed everything like I was collecting evidence for a trial that hadn't even started yet. Tone, timing, energy. I paid attention to things that never used to matter and convinced myself that meant I was growing. But really, I was shrinking. I stopped being present and started being suspicious. I stopped enjoying moments and started analyzing them. And here's the part that hurts to admit. You didn't change. I did. I became hyper aware of the idea that I could be replaced. And instead of asking myself why I felt that way, I made it your responsibility to fix it. I needed reassurance, but I didn't know how to ask for it honestly. So I wrapped it in casual questions. Who was that? What were you doing? Why didn't you text back? They sounded harmless, but they weren't, because every question carried an unspoken message. I don't fully trust you. And trust doesn't erode loudly. It erodes quietly, through repetition. Each time you reassured me, it worked for a moment. But reassurance doesn't last when insecurity is the root. I needed it again the next day, and the next, and the next. Because the problem was never what you were doing. It was what I believed about myself. I believed that if I wasn't constantly chosen, I was being forgotten. That if I wasn't needed, I was replaceable. That if I relaxed, I'd lose you. So I stayed tense. I stayed alert. I stayed afraid. And fear has a way of disguising itself as love if you don't know the difference yet. I didn't think jealousy was hurting us. I thought it was protecting us. That's how it wins. Jealousy doesn't scream. It narrates. It becomes a voice in your head that sounds like it knows you better than anyone else. And once it starts talking, it doesn't stop. It shows up when you're alone, when there's silence, when your phone is face down and your thoughts are loud. It asks questions that feel impossible to ignore. Why did she take so long to reply? Why did her tone feel different today? Why does it feel like she's pulling away? And the worst part? Those questions never come with answers, only conclusions. I started living in my head more than in reality. Every interaction became something to dissect after it ended. I replayed conversations like recordings, looking for hidden meanings that probably weren't there. I analyzed your words instead of hearing them, your silence instead of your actions. And the more I thought, the more convinced I became that something was wrong, even when nothing was. I didn't trust calm anymore. Peace felt suspicious, happiness felt temporary. If things were going well, I waited for the other shoe to drop, because my mind had already decided good things don't last. So I prepared myself for the loss before it even happened, and preparation slowly turned into pressure. I started needing proof. Not once, not sometimes, constantly. Proof that you cared, proof that I mattered, proof that I wasn't about to be replaced. And no amount of proof was ever enough. You could reassure me 100 times, and I'd still remember the one moment that didn't feel perfect. That's what jealousy does. It ignores the 99 confirmations and obsesses over the one uncertainty. I became emotionally restless, always searching for something that felt stable, but refusing to believe stability when it was right in front of me. And I know now how exhausting that must have been for you, because love started to feel like a test you never signed up for. I didn't mean to interrogate you with my insecurities. I didn't mean to make you feel like you were constantly being evaluated. But intention doesn't erase impact. I didn't realize how heavy my fear was until I saw you start to carry it too. You explained yourself more. You reassured me preemptively. You adjusted your behavior to avoid triggering my anxiety. And I called that effort. But really, it was self-defense. You weren't becoming more open. You were becoming more careful. And instead of asking myself why I needed so much reassurance, I convinced myself it was your job to give it. That's when jealousy crossed the line. It stopped being a feeling and became a pattern. There's a moment in every unhealthy pattern where it stops feeling emotional and starts feeling mechanical. That's when I knew something was wrong. I wasn't reacting anymore. I was anticipating. I'd walk into conversations already braced for impact, already tense, already prepared to defend myself against something that hadn't happened. And when you didn't do anything wrong, my brain still found a way to be uneasy, because jealousy doesn't need proof. It needs permission, and I had given it plenty. I started confusing discomfort with intuition. I told myself I was just listening to my gut. But your gut isn't always wisdom. Sometimes it's just fear with confidence. I noticed the shift in you before I admitted it to myself. You laughed less freely. You shared less spontaneously. You paused before telling stories that used to come naturally, not because you were hiding something, but because you were tired of explaining yourself. And I hate this part the most. I could feel you pulling back, and instead of softening, I tightened my grip. I asked more questions, needed more clarity, wanted more reassurance. I told myself if I just understand everything, I'll finally feel calm. But calm doesn't come from knowing everything. It comes from trusting. And trust was the one thing I didn't know how to give without conditions. Love became heavy. Not loud, not explosive. Just heavy. Like every interaction carried weight. Like every good moment had to survive inspection afterward. You started choosing your words carefully. Choosing silence sometimes instead of honesty. Because honesty had started fights. And I didn't see it as fear. I saw it as distance. And distance triggered me more than anything else. So I pushed. I pushed conversations deeper than they needed to go. I pushed for clarity that didn't exist. I pushed for certainty in a human being who was allowed to be imperfect. And slowly, subtly, I stopped being someone you relaxed around. I became someone you managed. That realization didn't hit all at once. It crept in through your tone, through your exhaustion, through the way arguments ended. Not with resolution, but with silence. I wasn't fighting for love anymore. I was fighting against my own insecurity and using you as the battlefield. And the truth I didn't want to face yet. Jealousy hadn't made me more loving. It had made me more controlling. Not in obvious ways, in emotional ones. The kind that drain you quietly. The kind that makes someone feel like no matter what they do, it will never quite be enough. And by the time I noticed the damage, it had already changed us. The hardest part wasn't losing you. It was realizing why. Because when things finally started falling apart, there was no dramatic ending, no explosion, no betrayal I could point to and blame. Just exhaustion. The kind that settles in when love has been working overtime just to survive. You weren't angry anymore. You weren't defensive. You were tired. And that's when it hit me. Jealousy hadn't protected us. It had slowly bled us dry. I wanted to believe I was reacting to something you did. But deep down, I knew the truth. I was reacting to the version of myself I didn't trust. I didn't believe I was enough on my own. So I needed constant confirmation that I was chosen. I didn't feel secure in who I was. So I tried to secure you instead. And that never works. Because love doesn't survive under surveillance. It suffocates. I look back now and see the moments where I could have chosen differently. I could have paused instead of questioned. I could have listened instead of assumed. I could have admitted I was scared instead of acting suspicious. But fear doesn't make you brave. It makes you defensive. And defensiveness slowly turns love into something transactional. prove this, explain that, reassure me again, until one day there's nothing left to prove. Losing you forced me to sit with myself without distractions, without reassurance, without someone to blame. And that's where the real work started. I had to ask myself uncomfortable questions. Why did silence feel threatening? Why did independence feel like rejection? Why did I confuse intensity with intimacy? Jealousy wasn't about you leaving. It was about me not knowing who I was without you. And here's the part I'm finally ready to say out loud. I don't hate myself for it, but I take responsibility, because growth doesn't come from shame. It comes from honesty. If I love again, I want it to feel light. I want peace, not paranoia. I want trust that isn't conditional. I want to be someone who feels secure enough to let another person breathe. Jealousy taught me a painful lesson, but a necessary one. Love isn't proven by fear. It's proven by trust. And next time, I want to love without chains. I need to say this out loud because it's the truth I avoided for too long. I didn't push you away because I didn't care. I pushed you away because I cared too much and didn't know how to feel safe in it. That's the part people don't understand. I didn't wake up one day and decide to sabotage us. I didn't plan to make things harder. I didn't want distance. I wanted proof. Proof that you wouldn't leave when things got uncomfortable. Proof that you'd fight for me when I stopped being easy to love. Proof that I mattered even when I wasn't at my best. So I tested you, not consciously, not proudly, but consistently. I'd pull back just enough to see if you noticed. I'd go quiet just long enough to see if you'd reach out. I'd act cold just to see if you'd stay warm. And every time you leaned in, I felt relief for a moment. Then the fear came back, because reassurance doesn't last when the wound is internal. I didn't know how to say, I'm scared you'll leave. So instead I acted like I didn't need you. I didn't know how to ask, can you stay? So instead I gave you reasons not to. That's the part that still hurts to admit. I made love conditional without realizing it. I treated closeness like a test instead of a gift. If you stayed through my silence, you passed. If you fought for me when I withdrew, you passed. If you chased me when I pulled away, you passed. But love isn't supposed to be something you earn by enduring pain. And deep down I knew that. I just didn't know how to stop, because vulnerability felt dangerous, and distance felt like control. I told myself I was protecting my heart, but really, I was protecting myself from being seen. I had learned somewhere along the way that if people saw the real me, the insecure parts, the anxious parts, the parts that needed reassurance, they would leave. So I tried to become someone who didn't need anyone, and when you loved me anyway, I didn't trust it. That's the quiet irony. I wanted closeness, but I didn't trust it. I wanted love, but I didn't believe it would stay. I wanted you, but I was afraid of how much. So I tested you. And tests don't build relationships, they strain them. The problem with testing love is that eventually people stop trying to pass. At first you did everything right. You checked in when I went quiet. You asked what was wrong even when I said nothing. You tried to close gaps I kept creating. And every time you reached for me, it confirmed what I needed to believe. You care. But the relief never lasted. Because fear doesn't disappear when it's fed. It grows. So I raised the stakes. I became harder to read, slower to respond, less available, not because I wanted space, but because I wanted certainty. I told myself if they really love me, they won't leave. And when you stayed, I felt powerful. That's another ugly truth. Distance gave me control. As long as I was the one pulling away, I couldn't be abandoned. As long as I stayed guarded, I couldn't be blindsided. I confused control with safety, and safety with love, but love doesn't thrive in uncertainty. It withers. You started asking if I was okay, if I was happy, if something had changed, and instead of answering honestly, I minimize. I'm fine. I just need space. Don't overthink it. But I was overthinking everything. I just didn't want to admit how fragile I felt inside. So I let you carry the confusion. I let you wonder what you did wrong. I let you question your worth. And I hate that now. Because you didn't deserve to feel like you were constantly chasing stability. But at the time, I convinced myself that love should be proven under pressure. That if you couldn't handle me at my worst, you didn't deserve me at my best. What I didn't realize was that I was manufacturing my worst. I wasn't being authentic, I was being defensive, I wasn't setting boundaries. I was setting traps. And every time you stumbled into one, a part of me felt validated. See? They're still here. But another part of me felt ashamed. Because love shouldn't feel like a loyalty test. It shouldn't require endurance. And slowly I started noticing the shift. You stopped asking as many questions, you stopped pushing as hard, you stopped chasing me into silence. Not because you didn't care, but because you were tired. And tired love doesn't announce itself. It fades. There's a moment where you stop asking, why are they changing? And start asking, why am I? That moment didn't come gently. It came when I noticed you weren't reacting anymore. You didn't chase my silence. You didn't press for reassurance. You didn't lean in when I leaned out. You matched my distance, and suddenly the power I thought I had disappeared. Because the truth is, testing love only works when the other person keeps trying. The second they stop, you're forced to face what you've been doing. I remember the panic, the sharp realization that what I'd been calling space now felt like loss, that the distance I created was no longer under my control, and instead of feeling validated, I felt exposed, because now there was no one proving anything, no one reassuring me, no one fighting through my walls, just silence. And silence doesn't confirm love, it reveals reality. I started replaying everything, the times I went cold instead of honest, the times I withdrew instead of asking for reassurance, the times I pretended I didn't care just to feel safe. I saw it clearly for the first time. I wasn't being strong, I was being afraid, I wasn't independent, I was guarded, I wasn't protecting myself from pain, I was guaranteeing it. You didn't stop loving me all at once. You wore down, and that realization hurt more than anger ever could. Because anger means there's still energy left, still emotion. Tiredness means the fight is over. I finally understood something I wish I'd learned sooner. Love doesn't leave because it isn't tested enough. It leaves because it's tested too much. No one wants to feel like they're constantly proving their worth. And I had turned love into a performance. I needed you to show up on cue, to reassure me on demand, to stay steady while I stayed uncertain. And I never stopped to ask what that was costing you. That's the part that sits with me now. Not the arguments, not the silence, but the fact that I made someone feel like loving me required endurance. And the hardest truth, you didn't fail my tests. I did. When love finally let go, it didn't feel dramatic, it felt empty. No more tension, no more tests, no more chasing or pulling away, just space. And for the first time, I had nothing to hide behind. No silence to weaponize, no distance to control the outcome, no version of myself that looked unbothered, just me. And that's when I understood something that changed everything. I wasn't afraid of losing you. I was afraid of being seen needing reassurance, seen wanting closeness, seen hoping someone would stay without being challenged to. I had learned somewhere along the way that love had to be earned through struggle, that if someone stayed through my worst behavior, it meant they were real. But love isn't proven by suffering, it's proven by safety. And I hadn't been safe. Not because I was cruel, but because I was closed. I mistook emotional distance for strength. I mistook detachment for independence. I mistook control for confidence. And by the time I realized the difference, you had already learned how to stop reaching. That's the consequence of testing love. Eventually, love stops volunteering. I don't hate myself for what I did, but I won't deny it either. Because growth doesn't come from pretending you were misunderstood. It comes from admitting you were afraid. If I love again, I don't want to be someone people have to prove themselves to. I want to be someone who makes staying feel easier than leaving. I want to say what I feel instead of hiding behind silence. I want to ask for reassurance instead of creating distance. I want to trust without demanding proof first. Because love isn't something you test. It's something you tend. And if someone ever walks away again, I don't want it to be because I made them feel like loving me was a challenge they eventually failed. Next time, I don't want to test love. I want to choose it. I met the love of my life in a moment that didn't feel important enough to remember forever. That's the cruel part. The moments that change everything never announce themselves. They don't arrive with music or warnings. They just happen quietly. And by the time you realize what they were, they're already behind you. At first it felt harmless, easy. We talk the way people talk when they don't know yet that they're standing on the edge of something irreversible. Long conversations that drifted from jokes to confessions without either of us noticing the shift. The kind of connection that makes time feel flexible, like hours can stretch or disappear depending on how close you're sitting. I told myself it was just comfort, just chemistry, just coincidence. I didn't tell myself the truth that I had never felt so understood by another person in my entire life. They saw me, not the version I showed everyone else, but the quiet one underneath. The one with doubts I never said out loud, the one who second-guessed every decision but pretended not to care. And somehow, without prying, without demanding explanations, they made space for all of it. I should have been brave then. Instead, I was careful not to read into things, careful not to ruin what we already had. Careful not to admit that every time my phone lit up with their name, my chest felt lighter. Careful not to imagine what it would be like to hold their hand, to choose them openly, to stop pretending this was something casual. I told myself there would be time. That's the lie I believed the most. We danced around each other in a language made of almost confessions, almost touches, almost moments where the truth sat between us, heavy and obvious, waiting for one of us to say something real. I think they felt it too. I know they did. You don't look at someone the way they looked at me without wanting more. But wanting something isn't the same as choosing it. Fear is quieter than love, but it's more convincing. It sounds responsible, logical. It tells you to wait until you're ready, until the timing is right, until you're better, stronger, more certain. I listened to it every time my heart tried to speak, so I stayed silent. Days turned into memories before I realized what was happening. The closeness softened, the conversation shortened. Life did what it always does. It kept moving, whether I was ready or not, and then one day they told me they had met someone else. They didn't say it to hurt me. They said it gently, almost apologetically, like they were worried about my feelings even then. I smiled, I congratulated them. I told them I was happy for them. I have never lied so convincingly in my life. That night I sat alone and tried to understand how something that never officially existed could hurt this much. There was no breakup, no argument, no moment I could point to and say this is when it ended. There was only the quiet realization that I had lost something irreplaceable without ever fighting for it. Grief without permission is a strange thing. You don't feel entitled to it. You tell yourself you have no right to be this devastated because nothing was promised. Nothing was defined. But your heart doesn't care about technicalities. It only knows what it recognized when it found home in another person. I replay every moment now, searching for the courage I didn't have. The things I could have said. The chances I felt but ignored. I wonder how different my life would be if I had risked rejection instead of guaranteeing regret. Because that's the truth no one tells you. Not trying is still a choice, and it comes with consequences. I see them sometimes happy, settled, living a life that might have been mine if I had spoken up sooner. And I'm genuinely glad they found love. I just wish it didn't hurt so much knowing I let mine walk away because I was too afraid to reach for it. There's a particular kind of loneliness that comes from knowing you recognize something rare and still let it go. It follows you into other relationships, other connections. You compare without meaning to. You measure everyone against the way they made you feel without trying. Some loves don't break your heart by leaving. Some break it by waiting for you to choose them and realizing you never will. If I've learned anything from this, it's that love doesn't always demand grand gestures. Sometimes it just asks for honesty at the right moment. And if you don't give it that, it doesn't punish you loudly. It just becomes a memory, one you carry quietly. One that teaches you, far too late, that the scariest thing about love isn't losing it. It's realizing you never even tried to keep it. I thought I had time because nothing was breaking loudly. No slam doors, no screaming matches, no final fight that made it obvious something was wrong. You were still there, still replying, still saying it's okay. In that way people say it when they're trying to convince themselves more than you. I didn't realize how dangerous still can be. I told myself love doesn't disappear overnight. I believed it erodes slowly, so slowly that you can always catch it before it's gone. I thought awareness was enough. I thought noticing the distance meant I was already halfway to fixing it. I thought intention counted more than execution, and I leaned on that belief every time you asked for more, and I answered with soon. Soon became my shield. Soon meant I didn't have to change today. Soon meant I could acknowledge your pain without sitting in it. I didn't feel like a bad person. That's the part that scares me the most now. I felt reasonable, calm, logical. I had explanations for everything, why I was tired, why I was distracted, why I couldn't show up the way you needed yet. I told myself love should be patient, understanding, flexible. I didn't ask myself why flexibility always bent in my direction. You were patient. God, you were patient. And I mistook that patience for permanence. I didn't hear your silence as a warning. I heard it as peace. I didn't see your restraint as exhaustion. I saw it as maturity. Every time you stopped bringing things up, I felt relief instead of concern. I thought we were past the hard conversations, not realizing you had just stopped inviting me into them. I wasn't absent. I was worse. I was almost present. Just enough to keep you hoping. Just enough to keep myself comfortable. I showed up when it was easy, when I felt like it. When the idea of losing you scared me for a moment, I gave effort in bursts, like damage control instead of consistency. I loved reactively, not intentionally. And every time you softened again, I relaxed. Crisis avoided. Clock reset. More time earned. I didn't understand that love doesn't reset like that. It remembers. There were nights you needed reassurance, and I gave logic instead. Moments you needed closeness, and I offered distance disguised as space. I told myself I was respecting independence, when really I was protecting myself from emotional responsibility. I didn't want to be needed in a way that required sacrifice. I didn't want love to demand anything I wasn't ready to give. So I delayed. I postponed effort the way people postpone hard conversations with themselves. I told myself I'd step up when life slowed down, when I felt more stable, when I felt more confident, when I felt ready. I never questioned why ready kept moving further away. You tried to meet me where I was. I didn't notice how far you had traveled to get there. I didn't ask what it cost you to stay quiet, to stay hopeful, to stay soft with someone who kept proving they could live without urgency. I thought love meant not pressuring me. I didn't realize I was teaching you that your needs were negotiable. And the worst part, it all felt normal, comfortable, manageable, no alarms, no countdown. Just time passing quietly while something important was being neglected. I thought love would warn me before it left. I thought there would be a moment where I'd feel it slipping through my fingers and finally act. I didn't know love leaves in inches, not miles. I didn't know people start letting go long before they actually walk away. I thought I had time because you stayed. I didn't realize staying was costing you something. And while I was busy believing tomorrow would be better, you were learning how to survive today without me. The shift didn't announce itself. It never does. It crept in through routine, through comfort, through the quiet confidence I had that you weren't going anywhere. I stopped checking in and started assuming you were okay, assuming you understood, assuming that if something was really wrong, you'd say it again, louder this time. That assumption became my excuse. You had said it before, multiple times, softly at first, then more directly, and with that tired honesty people use when they're running out of energy but not hope yet. I remember thinking, we've already talked about this, as if talking once was supposed to fix a pattern I kept repeating. You didn't change overnight, you adapted. You asked less, you needed less, or at least you showed less. And instead of being alarmed, I felt relieved. That's the part I hate admitting. Relief felt like peace to me. I thought we were stabilizing. I thought we were maturing past the needy phase. I didn't realize you were just learning how to want me less so it wouldn't hurt as much when I disappointed you again. Your messages shortened, not cold, just efficient. Your tone softened, but not in the warm way, in the careful way. You stopped circling back to things I ignored, stopped explaining your feelings in different ways, hoping one would finally land. I noticed all of it. I just didn't respond to it. I told myself I was busy, that life was demanding, that stress changes people, that love doesn't need constant reassurance if it's real. I told myself we were solid enough to survive a dry spell. What I didn't admit was that I was letting you do all the emotional maintenance while I enjoyed the benefits. I wasn't scared you'd leave. I was confident you'd adjust. That confidence made me careless. Every time you almost pulled away and then stayed, it reinforced the wrong lesson. I thought love meant endurance. I thought commitment meant tolerance. I didn't understand that every time you swallowed your feelings to keep the peace, something inside you hardened just a little. You tried to explain the loneliness of being with someone who isn't fully there. I responded with logic, with reassurance that didn't come with action, with promises that weren't anchored to timelines. I made you feel heard without making you feel prioritized. That's a dangerous combination. I told myself I wasn't neglectful because I wasn't gone, because I still showed up sometimes, because I still cared. But caring without consistency doesn't feel like love on the receiving end. It feels like uncertainty, like waiting, like hoping you'll finally be important enough today. I didn't mean to make you feel optional, but I treated your needs like they were negotiable. You started finding peace without me. I saw it and misread it as growth. I didn't realize you were emotionally rehearsing a life where I wasn't central anymore. You were learning how not to reach for me first, how not to expect me to show up, how to self-soothe the parts of you that used to trust me. I thought love would fight to stay. I didn't realize love also gets tired. And by the time I felt the distance clearly, by the time it stopped feeling subtle and started feeling real, you were already halfway gone. Not physically, emotionally. You were still next to me, still talking, still trying in your own quiet way. But something had shifted. You weren't waiting anymore. You were preparing. And I was still telling myself I had time. When it finally happened, it didn't feel real. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was calm. You didn't explode. You didn't accuse. You didn't unload every grievance you'd been carrying for months. You sat there steady, almost gentle, and told me you couldn't keep doing this. That sentence alone should have shattered me, but it didn't. Not right away. I was still convinced this was a phase, a scare, a wake-up call I could respond to in time. I started saying all the things I should have said earlier. I promised change with urgency this time. I talked about effort like it was something I could flip on instantly. I reached for you emotionally in a way I hadn't before, and for a brief second I thought I was saving us. But you weren't moved, and that terrified me. You looked at me the way someone looks at a door they've already closed. Not angry, not cold, just resolved. That's when I realized something awful. You weren't asking anymore. You were informing me. I tried to understand how it got there so fast. I replayed the last few weeks in my head, searching for the exact moment I lost you. I thought maybe it was one argument, one missed call, one bad night. I needed it to be a single mistake so I could convince myself I wasn't that careless. But there wasn't one moment. There were hundreds of small delays. Hundreds of times I chose comfort over courage. Hundreds of moments where you needed reassurance and I gave you patience instead, as if patience could replace presence. I felt sick realizing how predictable this was, how avoidable, how many chances I had to change the trajectory and didn't. Not because I couldn't, but because I didn't feel the pressure yet. I kept telling myself I loved you, and I did. But love without action doesn't protect anything. You told me you were tired of feeling like you had to convince me to care at the same level. Tired of feeling like wanting more made you needy. Tired of shrinking yourself so I wouldn't feel overwhelmed. And hearing that made something collapse inside me, because I finally saw the pattern clearly. I only rose to the occasion when I felt like I was about to lose you. And by then, it was already too late. I realized how manipulative that pattern is, even if it's unintentional. How loving someone only at the brink teaches them that pain is the price of your effort, that their breaking point is what activates your commitment. I never wanted to be that person, but intention doesn't erase impact. When you walked away, I didn't chase immediately. Part of me was still stuck in denial, still assuming this was temporary, still believing time would smooth it over like it always had. I told myself you needed space, that I should respect it, that reaching out too much would push you further away. Another delay, another excuse, and then it hit me all at once. This wasn't distance you needed. This was distance you had already survived. You weren't cooling off, you were letting go. That realization hurt in a way that felt permanent. Not sharp, not explosive, just heavy, like something settling into my chest that wasn't ever going to move again. I understood then that I didn't lose you when you left. I lost you while you were still trying. And the most brutal part of all was knowing that when you needed me most, I was convinced I had time. I didn't run out of love, I ran out of chances. And for the first time, there was nothing I could say to delay the truth anymore. The quiet after you left was different than I expected. It wasn't empty. It was loud in a slow, suffocating way. Every room felt like it was holding something I forgot to take responsibility for. Every moment of silence felt like a mirror I couldn't look away from anymore. I kept waiting for the sharp pain, the breakdown, the dramatic regret that would justify how badly I felt. But what came instead was something worse. Clarity. I saw myself clearly for the first time, without the buffer of your patience protecting me from the consequences of my behavior. I saw how often I delayed growth because someone loved me enough to tolerate my stagnation. How I confused being accepted with being entitled to stay the same. How I let comfort turn into complacency and called it stability. I wasn't blindsided, I was exposed. I replayed conversations differently now. Not to defend myself, but to hear what you were actually saying beneath the words. The exhaustion, the quiet pleading, the way you kept asking for presence, not perfection. I realized how many times you gave me the answer to the test, and I still failed it because I didn't think the grade mattered yet. I kept thinking about timing, how unfair it felt that I finally understood everything when there was no one left to prove it to. But that's the lie I had been telling myself all along, that understanding comes first and action follows. In reality, action is what creates understanding. You don't wake up ready. You become ready by choosing discomfort over delay. I had chosen delay. I saw how fear ran my decisions. Fear of being inadequate, fear of being exposed, fear of committing fully and still falling short. So I stayed half involved, half invested, half present. I thought that would protect me. It didn't. It just made the loss cleaner. Loving someone late is a specific kind of self-betrayal. Because you know the love was real. You just rationed it. You treated it like a resource that needed conserving instead of something that needed expressing. And now there was no one left to receive it. I wanted to believe you'd come back once I changed, that if I worked on myself hard enough, fast enough, the universe would reward me with another chance. But that's not growth. That's bargaining. And growth doesn't promise reunion, it promises awareness. So I stopped chasing outcomes and started interrogating patterns. I asked myself why I only show up fully when I'm afraid. Why urgency is the only thing that seems to activate my best self. Why I wait for loss to teach me what presence could have taught me earlier. Those questions didn't feel productive. They felt uncomfortable, which is how I knew they mattered. I don't demonize myself anymore, but I don't absolve myself either. I hold the truth steady. I loved you and I still failed you. Both can exist at the same time. Love doesn't cancel impact. Caring doesn't erase neglect. If there's anything I carry forward from this, it's this. Time isn't generous. It doesn't pause while you figure yourself out. It doesn't protect what you refuse to tend to. It doesn't care about potential. It responds to consistency. I thought time would wait for me to be ready. I didn't understand that time rewards the people who act before they are. You leaving didn't ruin me. It revealed me. And now when something matters, I don't tell myself later. I don't rely on patience I didn't earn. I don't confuse staying with safety. Because I've learned this the hard way. The people who leave quietly don't do it suddenly. They do it after waiting longer than they should have. And if love ever finds me again, it won't need more time. It will need presence. It will need courage. It will need me to show up before I'm afraid to lose it. I thought I had time. I didn't. Am I hard to love? That question didn't come from a fight. It didn't come from an argument or a breakup conversation. It came from the silence that followed. The kind of silence that doesn't slam the door. It just stops answering. The kind that makes you replay everything, not because you want to, but because your mind refuses to move forward without understanding what went wrong. I didn't always ask that question. At first I blamed timing, distance, stress, different stages of life. I told myself it just wasn't meant to work. But when it keeps happening, when people leave in similar ways with similar exhaustion in their voices, you start to wonder if it's not bad luck. You start to wonder if it's you. I think back to the way I loved, how intense it was, how deeply I felt everything, how quickly I attached meaning to small moments. At the time, I thought that meant I cared more, that I loved harder. Now I'm not so sure, because loving hard doesn't always mean loving well. I wanted reassurance constantly, not because they weren't giving it, but because I didn't trust it to last. Every calm moment felt temporary. Every good day felt fragile, like something bad was waiting around the corner. And instead of enjoying love when it was there, I monitored it. I watched for changes in tone. I noticed response times. I read into body language. I turned silence into stories that hurt me before reality ever could. I didn't tell them I was scared. I didn't say, I feel insecure. I didn't say, I need comfort. I expected them to notice. And when they didn't, I felt unseen. So I pulled back. I told myself I was being independent. I told myself I was protecting my heart. But if I'm being honest, I was testing them. I wanted to see if they'd chase me, if they'd fight for me, if they'd prove I mattered. That's not fair to put on someone. I didn't realize how heavy that kind of love feels from the other side, how confusing it is to love someone who needs reassurance but doesn't know how to ask for it. I wonder now if loving me felt like walking on eggshells, like one wrong move could shift my mood, like they were responsible for keeping me okay. That thought hurts, because I never wanted to be someone people had to manage. I never wanted to be someone who drained the room. I never wanted my insecurities to become someone else's burden. But intention doesn't erase impact. And the more I reflect, the more I see moments where I chose self-protection over vulnerability, where I chose silence over honesty, where I chose control over connection. I didn't trust love when it was calm. I only trusted it when it was loud. And maybe that's where things started to break. So yeah, am I hard to love? I don't ask that to punish myself. I ask it because avoiding the question didn't stop the pattern. And this is where it begins. Once the question settles in your chest, it doesn't leave quietly. It follows you into memories you thought you'd already processed. Moments you once blamed on circumstance start feeling personal. I started looking back, not at how they hurt me, but at how I showed up when things weren't perfect. And that's when it got uncomfortable. I noticed how defensive I became when someone tried to tell me how they felt, how quickly I heard criticism instead of concern, how fast my guard went up the moment I felt misunderstood. I wasn't listening to connect. I was listening to protect myself. Every serious conversation felt like a threat. Every boundary felt like rejection. Every request felt like proof that I wasn't enough as I was. So I reacted. I explained myself instead of listening. I justified my behavior instead of acknowledging their feelings. I focused on being right instead of being safe to talk to. I told myself that's not what I meant. But what they were saying wasn't about my intent. It was about how they felt. And I didn't realize how invalidating that can be. I see it now. I wanted unconditional understanding, but I didn't always offer emotional safety in return. I wanted patience, but I struggled to sit with discomfort. I wanted reassurance, but I resisted vulnerability. I wanted love without exposure, and that doesn't exist. I think about how inconsistent I could be, how some days I was open, affectionate, fully present, and other days I was distant, quiet, unreachable, not because they did something wrong, but because my own thoughts got loud. I didn't communicate when I was overwhelmed. I withdrew. And silence is confusing. It makes people guess. It makes them question where they stand. I wonder how many times someone felt like they were losing me without knowing why. That thought sits heavy, because I never wanted to make anyone feel unsure. I just didn't know how to sit with my own uncertainty. I also realize now how much pressure I put on love to fix things it was never meant to fix. I wanted love to heal my self-doubt, to quiet my anxiety, to give me a sense of worth I hadn't built on my own. And when it didn't, I felt disappointed, hurt, unfulfilled. But that wasn't fair to them. They weren't failing me. I was asking them to carry things that weren't theirs. I confused closeness with security, intensity with intimacy, attachment with love. And when the intensity faded, as it naturally does, I panicked. I mistook stability for boredom, calm for distance, peace for disinterest. So I searched for problems, or created them, because chaos felt familiar. And that's when it really hit me. I wasn't hard to love because I was too much. I was hard to love because I didn't know how to be steady. I didn't know how to trust love when it wasn't constantly proving itself. And the saddest part, I didn't see it while it was happening. I only saw it once it was over. Once they were tired. Once they stopped trying to explain. Once the silence wasn't temporary anymore. That's when the question stopped feeling theoretical. Am I hard to love? Or am I just afraid to be fully seen? That question stopped being abstract once I realized something important. I wasn't just afraid of being abandoned. I was afraid of being truly known. Because being known means being seen clearly. And if someone sees you clearly, they can leave for reasons you can't deny. So instead of letting people see me fully, I controlled the version of myself they got. I showed strength when I was scared, indifference when I was hurt, confidence when I was unsure. I thought that made me easier to love, but it did the opposite. It made me unpredictable. People never knew which version of me they were going to get. The open one or the closed one, the affectionate one or the distant one, the calm one or the overthinking one. And inconsistency doesn't feel romantic from the outside. It feels unsafe. I see now how often I waited for people to prove they cared instead of trusting that they did. How I needed repeated confirmation not because they weren't giving it, but because I didn't believe it could last. I kept one foot out the door emotionally, not to leave them, but to soften the blow if they did. And when you love someone with an exit plan in your pocket, they feel it. They feel the hesitation, the lack of surrender, the way you never fully settle into the relationship. I thought I was being cautious, but I was being guarded. And guarded love is exhausting to receive. I also had to face how much pride played a role in my behavior. How difficult it was for me to admit when I was wrong without explaining myself. How apologies felt incomplete because I still needed to be understood. I'm sorry, but that "but" did damage because it shifted the focus back to me. I didn't realize how often I centered my own pain in moments where someone else was asking to be heard. How my fear of being the bad guy made it impossible to sit in accountability. I wasn't abusive, I wasn't cruel, but I wasn't emotionally mature either. And maturity isn't about good intentions. It's about how you respond when someone tells you they're hurting. I think about how many times I could have paused instead of reacting. How many moments could have gone differently if I'd chosen curiosity over defensiveness. What are you feeling? What do you need? How can I show up better? Those questions didn't come naturally to me then, because asking them meant accepting that I wasn't perfect, that I contributed to the breakdown, that love didn't fail. I did in small ways over time. That realization didn't break me. It humbled me. I stopped asking whether I was hard to love in a self-pitying way and started asking it in a responsible one. Not what's wrong with me, but what patterns am I repeating? Because patterns are fixable. Blind spots can be illuminated, habits can be unlearned, and for the first time I felt something different than shame. I felt ownership. I couldn't change the past. I couldn't undo the exhaustion I caused. I couldn't rewrite the endings. But I could stop carrying the same version of myself into the future, and that mattered. So maybe I was hard to love, not because I was unworthy, but because I was unprepared. Unprepared to trust, unprepared to communicate, unprepared to stay present when love wasn't loud, and realizing that didn't make me smaller. It gave me a direction. I don't ask that question the same way anymore. It used to come from shame, from replaying endings, from wondering what people saw in me that made them leave. Now it comes from awareness, because the truth is, I'm not hard to love when I'm honest. I'm not hard to love when I communicate instead of withdrawing. I'm not hard to love when I stop asking people to read my mind. I had to learn that love doesn't require perfection. It requires responsibility. Responsibility for how my fear shows up. Responsibility for how my silence affects others. Responsibility for how my past bleeds into the present. I started doing the uncomfortable work, not all at once, not cleanly, but consistently. I learned to pause before reacting, to name insecurity instead of hiding it, to ask for reassurance without testing someone's loyalty. I'm feeling unsure right now. I need a little comfort. I'm not upset, I'm just overwhelmed. Those words felt exposing at first, but exposure is safer than confusion. I also learned to let people be human, to stop expecting them to fix things they didn't break, to stop measuring love by how anxious it made me feel, to stop confusing calm with disinterest. Peace isn't boring. It's unfamiliar, and unfamiliar doesn't mean wrong. I don't disappear anymore when things get heavy. I don't go silent to feel in control. I don't punish people with distance. When I mess up, because I still do, I own it. No explaining, no defending, no shifting the blame, just accountability. Because growth isn't about never hurting people. It's about noticing when you do, and changing fast enough that it doesn't become a pattern. I've learned that love doesn't leave because you're imperfect. It leaves when it feels unsafe to stay. And safety isn't built through intensity, it's built through consistency, communication, and trust. So if love comes back into my life, and I believe it won't meet the version of me that was quietly begging to be chosen. It'll meet someone who knows how to stay present, someone who doesn't turn fear into distance, someone who understands that being loved starts with being honest. Am I hard to love? Maybe I was. But I'm not committed to being that person anymore, and that's the difference.